Hello, and welcome to Informatically Speaking, a Greater Delaware Valley ANIA podcast designed to promote knowledge sharing in the field of nursing informatics, locally, nationally, and globally within our unique industry. At GDV ANIA, we are committed to providing opportunities for professional development with the goal of advancing nursing informatics practice. I'm your host, Constance McLaughlin. Welcome back to the GDV ANIA chapter podcast, Informatically Speaking, a podcast for nurse informaticists and informatics enthusiasts alike. In this episode, we welcome our guest, Katherine Taylor Pearson, DNP, Assistant Professor, Graduate Informatics, Texas Tech University School of Nursing. She is a retired U.S. Army colonel and our ANIA president-elect. So next year, she will be our national president. Welcome, Katherine. So great to have you with us.
Thank you, Constance. It's an honor to be here.
Well, our topic today is an interesting one, and one that is top of mind, I think, for all of us in the healthcare profession, focusing on empowering nurse wellness. But today we're going to talk about empowering nurse wellness through informatics. To kick us off, I'll just read a few results from the 2024 Nursing Workforce Survey. 800,000 nurses responded. 138 have left the workforce since 2022. And it is reported that 40% of us intend to leave the profession by 2029. The top reasons being stress and burnout, pay, understaffing, workload, and workplace violence. Wellness has been a topic of conversation for quite some time. Like I said, Katherine, as a professor, this is top of mind for you. You are teaching our nursing young to enter into the profession. Speaking of which, you are drafting a paper that touches on wellness within the integration of AI, telehealth, EHRs, and other digital tools. The word techno-stress comes to mind when we talk about those things. And we'll have to sprinkle some of those findings into our conversation today. So I'm going to stop talking and let you give us your wisdom. So let's talk about how nurse informaticists can lead the way in nurse wellness and in workforce transformation.
I think first, Constance, nurse informaticians can lead the way by honestly understanding who they're working around, who's the staff they're collaborating with. I'm a big proponent of leadership rounds, getting to know your customer. And of course, that breaks off into usability and understanding what's causing cognitive workload and challenges of that. But I think you need to know your customers. You need to know your nurses. I learn a lot from my students every day. I have the honor and privilege of teaching in the graduate informatics program at Texas Tech. And many of our students are at the front line. And they tell us and show us how challenging it is every day. And so we're having lots of discussions about applied informatics and what their role can be, especially if they choose to stay at the bedside versus perhaps going into a EHR analyst role or business analyst role. But it's just so important. And I think our perspective as a nurse informatician, being able to see from the outside in, is extremely valuable. Whether we're looking from a system perspective or, some type of user requirement that we have to redefine, we have a very unique purview that I think can be very helpful to leadership, chief nurses, chief financial officers, CEOs, cybersecurity professionals, your chief of security. So I'm excited what the future can bring, but I will be honest, this report was very hard for me to read, and I know that we have a huge aging population and we have to build the bench, Constance. We have to figure it out. That's very, very clear to me. I know if we can continue to team up and work, in a collaborative fashion, we will figure out answers, but we're at a critical need right now.
I agree. And, I think about what you had said in the beginning. I think about knowing our colleagues uh, in the acute space, in the office space, and what they need to be up, what they're up against, really, and what they need to be on top of, what they need to know all day long. It's really not just about the technology.
Hmm.
It's about knowing them so that we can make it easier for them, that we can
Yes,
make it more efficient for them, and make it not so scary.
yes. And I'm very proud of us at the university, proud of us at American Nursing Informatics Association. I feel like we all share that common vision right now that we need to break down some perceived barriers in the past. Uh, Many of you listening to this podcast may have caught our presentation yesterday that we teamed up with the American Medical Surgical Nursing Association. And I'm so proud of our leadership at ANIA, Mark Johnson, all of our board, because they had the vision to be able to team up with that other organization to highlight this great certification exam. And virtual nursing seems to be a key issue for all leaders right now. How are they going to implement it? How are they going to train their staff? How are they going to make sure that there are standards, not only for their facility, but to help with retention? So I do think there's a lot of hope out there, Constance, but we gotta stay on this train. We gotta continue it for sure.
Well, for us and current patients' sake, right? I mean, I
Yes.
guess
Oh,
it's all
yes.
one and the same, really. We're all patients at one time. But the one thing that I think what you just touched on in with telehealth is really hopefully I'm hopeful that it's going to address the retiring situation. So,
Yes.
I didn't read into the report to see if the 40% was some was retiring and the others were just saying, I'm done, I'm out, 5 more years and I'm out. But I think that that's a game changer that our seasoned nurses can be in that capacity. But there's so many things to work through. There's a lot of kinks right now. Nurses on the floor feeling like, oh, big brother, feeling like, they don't know how to feel. They don't know how to do team nursing with a nurse who's not there physically with them, right? So I think we have a long way to go there. But it's a good thing, right? We're trying to
Yes.
work through this so that our nurses, we can retain our nurses who are thinking of retiring.
I'm on some other projects as well where we're discussing a lot, talking about, what different staffing models perhaps could be looked at with virtual nursing. Do we need to tie ourselves to the traditional shifts? The 7 to 3, the 7 to 7, can we look at more the volume of time? Perhaps we need to have a more staff in our virtual nursing team when we know discharges are anticipated in the afternoons, or maybe we need to have higher staffing on a Friday when we are trying to get medical equipment home. I'm thinking about care coordination too and what that handoff is. But we do all seem to be using virtual nursing a little bit differently. So I do think there's lots of opportunities to share lessons learned, work with our vendor partners to figure out the future, and, you know, and train our new staff that this is a very accepted model of work. And I do think we also need to take time to educate and coach our more seasoned staff as well, because I'm not sure they're aware of all these new technologies and what's available to them. Maybe that would also help them retain in the field if we could provide these other opportunities. I mean, Constance, what's one reason I appreciate my 25-year career in the military? I was always serving under the umbrella of the Army Nurse Corps, but I had a new job, new adventure, new assignment every 2 to 3 years. And honestly, because I had change and I had education and I had training, that's why I'm still a nurse today, because I understand that, if you do the same task day in and day out, that may not be a healthy model either. So I believe in that. I do believe in trying new things, trying new models, seeing what works. And, I lose sleep too, especially here in Texas, Constance. We have a big rural population in many parts and spaces of Texas. And so we need technologies like this desperately to be able to provide care. Many hospitals have gone under since COVID, not being able to economically meet their goals. And so we have to do something, Constance.
Agreed. And across the country, we have so many of those areas in the middle of the country where it's wide open space and there's not a hospital for hours. Totally agree with that. So I guess, well, let's stay on that retention topic and talk a little bit about um, how we can support that. I mean, we were just talking about telehealth, but talk a little bit about that professional development piece, how we can support our nurses um, with real-time education, with the data that comes along with it. We have reams and reams of data if you want to talk in terms of paper. But there's just so many different ways that we can take this to help retain. It's not only just the technology that's there, but it's what we can provide to help with that.
Thank you, Constance. I think there's many directions many of us can go. One structure that we often advocate with our graduate students is, even they're going through our program, we're a huge proponent of micro certifications. So what's offered through Udemy, what's offered through Coursera, so there are opportunities there as well. Maybe some might want to continue on to get their doctorate. Maybe they want to get their PhD. Maybe that's too long in school. So that's where those micro certifications may become very appealing. And certainly we're working in a direction to be able to award those type of trainings with continuing education as well. So I think there's just so many different directions that one can go. But if you need to get a paycheck fast, there's so much out there, and a lot of vendors also are providing opportunities. For example, Click, just one of many, they have an academic version of their software, and so they offer training through universities consistently. Um, and I believe that vendor model is becoming more popular as well in other specialties. As far as other professional development, I do think many nurses would benefit from resume workshops, you know, because it takes the skill set, I think, to understand how to take your resume and marry it to the job description that you're applying for. not to have that generic, form that shows what you've done the past 10 years or so. You need to have that resume that can be adaptable to that position. And I do think we do need to educate nurses more on the role of AI now. AI is everywhere, Constance, absolutely everywhere. And many hiring departments now use it as a scanning tool. So again, it's critical that that connection be made to that particular job you're applying for. So I do look forward to hosting more workshops, not only through the university, but through American Nursing Informatics Association to help with that. Um, and there's lots of tools out there too, right? Because we're informaticians, we love tools that can help with that. Of course, LinkedIn, I think, is probably one of the number one tools that's available there. We'd love to do more workshops with that. And there's, great digital business cards that are available now. You can just tap your phone to it and that person can share their professional information with you. I don't know about you, Constance, but I lose my paper cards constantly. So a digital business card is the way to go.
Well,
Um,
I hear you there. I lose the paper cards too, but I guess I'm just a tactical person. I like to hold things in my hand.
mhm, mhm,
And at the same time, I can't the the technology keeps changing and coming so quickly. And as I get older, I find myself a little reluctant to try the new things, or I don't know about those new things. So I like what you said about the resume
mhm.
review because actually last fall, our chapter, our Greater Delaware Valley chapter of ANIA had a webinar about with a talent acquisition manager. And we talked about resume, we talked about preparing yourself. So if you're listening, go back out to the go back out to our website and find that webinar because I think that would be really helpful for you. But I think at the national level, we need to keep that mantra going as well so that people understand. As a hiring manager, the last thing I want to see is all of the things that your job description says, and it's just a list of duties. I want to
Mhm.
know what you did,
Yes,
so tell me what you did above and beyond your job, right?
yes, yes. And even at the academic level, we typically will look for applicants who, have taken that extra mile to join professional organizations, to serve their community. Hopefully, they've also done some volunteer work. They've expanded themselves in various directions, and I think that's helpful, especially right now with all of our needs for sure.
So let's take a little bit of a detour,
Sure.
or rather, let's talk about redesigning for better support of our nurses in the clinical environment. So not only in the acute space, in the community space, in the office space, we love our tools.
Yes.
We know that. What are the things that we can do to help with that redesign? We're so creative in the way that we do use our tools, but there is something to be said about standardization.
For sure.
That's a mantra for me. Make sure that everybody is standard because then that way everybody has the same experience. Hopefully good experience with the technology. So I'll get off my soapbox, but let's talk a little bit about what that redesign might look like.
I think first, Constance, it's essential that assuming whatever system it may be, assuming it's not a homegrown system, but honestly, the same principles would be applied even with a homegrown system. But you need to really prioritize what I call user-centered design. That's essential. And then the other part of that is certainly partnering with your vendor, especially if it's at a point where, the product has not been transitioned to your facility fully, and you're still reaching out to the vendor for support. So regardless, whether it's the vendor or if it's in hospital or whatever the customer base is, having that user-centered design focus is essential.
And inviting your nurses to the
Oh,
table
yes,
to
yes,
see
yes,
it, to
yes,
feel it, to play with it,
yes,
and ask questions. Yeah.
yes. I'm also a huge proponent for focus groups. I don't think there's anything more rewarding, honestly, for the vendor to come in and speak to the customers to understand what their challenges are, what do they need, what are they experiencing out there. Even I had an opportunity to be in a focus group recently looking at medical device security. It was tremendously valuable. I was the only nurse in the room, which was fine, but I worked with several other cybersecurity professionals in the room. Our perspectives were very different. But at the end of the day, our goal was safe patient care, how to get our software updates and any fixes that had to be done. Bottom line, we didn't want to slow down anybody at the bedside because of the issue, and how could we work through that. But I think focus groups also, if we could do more of those, I think that would be very helpful. Either at the hospital level, university level, professional organization level would be another strategy. um, I think anything we can do to have fewer clicks now will be very, very valuable. I have some great colleagues out there. Um, uh, Dr. Mary Teets, who's an expert in this area, she has taught me a tremendous amount, but I do think we need to work in that direction. And I think there's more sensitivity out there, Constance. Even with my daughter, who's 13, going on 30, she's even more sensitive to it now. She even came up with a business proposal to me, maybe that she should downgrade her smartphone to like a flip phone so she can focus on school more. So I think there's more sensitivity out there, and we can continue to work as a profession to share that. The newest and the brightest and the biggest and the fastest may not always be the solution, and I think that's okay. Sometimes we have to go back to the basics for sure. I do think, uh, you know, there also should be a criteria with requirements. You need to evaluate how much frustration the staff are encountering, when you're testing a system. And I think too, that's the other part of my answer here as well, is we can't forget about testing. When I first came in the profession, Constance, about 30 years ago, we always had testing centers. We always had a testing database. We had testers. We had a whole test system. I think you get my point.
Mhm.
Now I'm quite aware that some vendors have had to move away from that for cost, for time, and I'm not sure that that's been a good direction for us to go. So if we can bring back that testing model to have our nurses be a part of that process, it also can help be very helpful for training and education and embracing that change, whatever that is.
Well, you said a lot there, and I will say that we are well past the major implementations, right? Unless, of course,
Mm-hmm.
you're ripping and replacing.
Yes.
But
Mm-hmm.
that brings into exactly what you're talking about. So the focus groups in terms of what's happening now, what are the frustrations, how are you using it? Can we apply standards to the workflows, to the clinical workflows, to what you're seeing when you're out there rounding? Um, having the testing pieces where um, you have a sim lab, that you have an integrated sim
Yes.
lab where
Yes.
you're not only talking with the new hires that are coming in, or, of course, new nurses that are coming into your organization, that they're able to touch it and see it and talk about it in a safe environment before they get out on the floor. So, I mean, that's applicable to not just our new nurses or not just our new hires that want to, that need to understand what's happening, but for those of us who have been in the industry for a long time, guess what? There's always room to learn something else,
Yes.
or maybe you didn't pick up on something, but it's that time that you're taking to touch it, see it, feel it, smell it, but also having that time outside of that where you're discussing the things that are happening, that you as an informaticist are taking the time to round, not howdy rounds. Those people who know me know that I'm not big on the howdy rounds, like, hey, how's it going? Okay, I'll see you later. But spending time in the office, in the community, at the bedside, to really absorb what's happening and watch some of these nurses and understand where their frustrations are coming from. Because what they tell you and what you see are probably two different things. And I can't even tell you, Catherine, I've been talking about this for at least 20 years. Just standing at the end of a hallway or in the corner of an office and watching how they're using the technology, and
Yes.
they think that it's fine, or they are so frustrated, but it's easily remedied if they would just do this, then help them build their muscle memory. I know I've talked about it on other podcasts before, watching nurses give meds from the door, and the door of a room, and stretching a tethered device across. I mean, just unbelievable things that you actually see. But this is the stuff that frustrates them, right? And they
Yes.
don't realize. But that's what your rounding is for.
Yes. Yes. Uh, and Constance, I agree. There's so much value in doing that. And I'm proud to share with you one of our students' assignments at Texas Tech is they do a workflow analysis. It begins as a human-centered design assignment. So they're encouraged to go find an active problem. Either A, they're experiencing themselves, or they're seeing this. And medication reconciliation administration is often brought up. And in fact, that's been a key example, stretching the cord, too far, and it may be just a simple change, changing the equipment to the other side of the bed. We know that some of our ERs are very tight on space. Many of them have turned into observation units too, waiting for a bed to open up, in their more acute care spaces. But I think that's key, and we have to welcome those challenges for sure. And then the second part of that human-centered design assignment is to do a workflow analysis, looking at the solution of that. And sometimes it's not a technology solution. It may be simply, like I shared, changing that piece of equipment to the other side of the room, more education and training, talking through all the other possible processes that can be done. Um, or it might even be just simply to review the standard procedure protocol or policy. So I do think there's lots of opportunities with rounding for sure.
I agree. There's always something to be said or seen. And I would love to see, here's just an idea off the top of my head, to have some kind of a workshop within our conference
Hmm.
on workflow analysis and
Oh,
that
I love it.
human-centered design. I think that would be a good one
I
to
think that would
really
be
dive
excellent.
into. Because I think as informaticists, we're constantly asked to be changing the system, right? We're always
Yeah, yeah.
asked to be changing, and things are not always that technology change is not always the answer, right? We got to look at people process before we look at the technology, because
Yes,
it's
yes.
static. It is what it is, and yes, we do occasionally need to make changes, but it's what people are doing with it is usually how it starts out, that it becomes
And
an issue.
Yeah, no, and I love it. And I'm sorry I didn't mention that before either. But yes, that is my mantra, Constance. People are at the top of the triangle, and then processes and technology are at the bottom of the triangle. You have to work with your people first. That should be the priority with all of this for sure.
I love that. I love that. Well, hopefully we'll have some kind of a deep dive, user-centered session
Yes, that would be
in an
fantastic.
upcoming, yeah. So let's talk just a little bit about your draft paper,
Oh, yes,
if you
yes.
will, because
Yeah,
I love the concept, and I'm not going to talk. You tell us
sure,
about
sure,
it.
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. My colleagues and I are actually submitting the manuscript as we speak. But what we were able to almost quickly come up with, just because of all of our backgrounds, really this kind of five-pillar approach to how we can collaborate more in informatics. Collaborating more with vendors, as we shared before, our industry partners, collaborating more with professional organizations, universities, hospitals, uh, our fellow IT colleagues. And I think there's really a huge drive with this. Just last Monday, Constance, I had the opportunity to go speak at Texas Regional HIMSS. So that supports several of the HIMSS chapters throughout Texas, Arizona, and it was fantastic. And I was very honored to talk about simply the importance of aligning with other professional organizations and the importance that it brings, and was very warmly received in HIMSS. I've had the same experience with Chime as well, another sister organization. A nursing knowledge big data sets group also. I mean, I could name quite a few. Um, New England Nursing Informatics Consortium, uh, the Allied Nursing Informatics Association that is umbrella under HIMSS, and AMIA, the American Medical Informatics Association. So we certainly have a commonality and a goal, and I think the time is now that we continue to work forward together. And there's probably several other organizations, Constance, that I'm failing to mention at the moment, but to have that team approach, I think is what we need right now for sure.
Agreed. Agreed. I have nothing to add to that. I think that's perfect the way you said that. So what are your takeaways today from this conversation? We've kind of skipped around. We talked about so many ways that we as informaticists can contribute to our nursing colleagues' wellness through observation, through rounding, through data, through including them in the conversation. Give us your top three takeaways from this conversation.
Thank you, Constance. Yes, to me, it's very, very clear that nurse informaticians, we can be very therapeutic, and I'm not sure traditionally we're always seen in that role, but it's not just a tech role. We're here to support our staff, our students, assist our vendors in collaborating. So to me, it's a huge people role, which I in turn can easily, in my mind, state that, we're part of the wellness solution for sure. With all the stresses and cognitive burden of documentation, we are part of that solution. And please, please, I ask our leaders to continue to reach out to us. Um, and again, we can work together to reduce burnout and improve safety, and that's going to make our work more fulfilling, of course. The second takeaway I'd like to mention is you don't have to be a technology expert to lead informatics change. Again, it's about the people. You have plenty of supportive team members that can assist you with that piece. Example, if you were, bringing on a huge database and perhaps you don't have experience with that, there's a whole team of people that could assist you with that. But what you understand is the change that's going to cause and what your staff need to make that jump, for example. Um, and our voice matters, whether we use data or design tools, whatever we do to support care, our voice matters. And of course, the third thing I would like to share that we here at American Nursing Informatics Association, we're always striving to see how we can assist more with informatics innovation. And I'm happy to report as well, just as of 3 months ago, we are now an American Nursing Association organizational affiliate. So we are already getting some future homework to see how we can help ANA move forward with some of these great initiatives as well, and teaming up with many of their wellness initiatives. So I'm very excited about the future, Constance.
Well, I am too, and I have to say that it's an exciting time. I think there's a lot of change coming, but there's still so much work um, currently that we
Yes,
need to keep up with, as well as the new shiny things that come along. It makes our work more difficult, but it makes our work more worthwhile, I think,
yes,
to do all the running. I am grateful for our organization, for ANIA. I think we do great work there. I love that we're an affiliate now of ANA, that we're working closely with AMIA. There's so many things that we're doing that I don't know that our base know everything that's going on. So I would say to that is to visit the website, take in as much as you possibly can, and join your local chapters so that you are involved, because this is not just a 9 to 5 job that you finished work and you go home. This is a constant upkeep of your education, of your thoughtful collaboration with our bedside and community colleagues. And so important that you are involved in the work that's going forward, because it can't just be the same 10 people year after year. We all have to be involved in all of this. Katherine, your students are so lucky to have you. I love when we talk because you're always telling me about the assignments that you're giving them. And it's great because there's really thoughtful, up-to-date assignments. I mean, you're not messing around there, but you're making them think, and that's exactly what we need to be as informaticists, as thinkers, and how can we make things better for everybody?
yes, absolutely, Constance. And it's a great model, one of many, but I find many informaticians are very visual and hands-on people. And that is one of the reasons they perhaps have chosen to go in that direction of that field. So I try very, very hard to do that. And I'm very fortunate that my program director, Dr. Steph Helscher, really also sees value in that. And she allows me to continue with that. Example, I'm teaching project management this summer. So one strategy I was trying, and I'll let you know perhaps in a future podcast if I'm invited back, how it's going. But we're going to have a class project. So the students had to vote on 4 different options. And of course, what did I choose? EHR, rip and replace, how to implement a smart hospital unit, meaning upgrading all the equipment, perhaps in a renovation, um, downtime plan, your favorite,
Ugh.
and how to create a hospital to home program. And interesting, the votes came in Sunday night, and the majority would like to implement a smart hospital room. So, that assignment will have a lot of renovation. How are you going to time the replacement of the equipment? What are you going to replace? What's your budget? Who's your business owner? So I will have some fun creating that and then challenging them to really pick that project charter apart and what's wrong with it and what's missing. And I hope they enjoy it and also get a lot of value out of that too. But yeah, some of this is fun to put together too and share lessons learned. And I do think they enjoy that.
That is awesome. I wish I could be your student because I want to do that. I want to work on that project. That sounds so much fun. Well, we'll definitely invite you back, Katherine. Of course, we'll have to set up another time, and would love to hear the results of this project. And we always have so much to talk about, so definitely. So thanks for joining us today. This is great.
Thank you, Constance. Thank you for the invitation. And it's truly meant a lot. So thank you so much.
So fun. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you'll join us again for another session of Informatically Speaking.
This has been a production of the Greater Delaware Valley chapter of the American Nursing Informatics Association. For more information about the GDV-ANIA chapter, visit us at community.ania.org/Greater Delaware Valley/home.